The clock strikes 13 in a world where truth dies daily, where love becomes crime, and where the human spirit wages its final war against the machine of absolute power. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. These words burn like acid through the corridors of human consciousness, revealing the terrifying architecture of a mind enslaved to its own destruction. George Orwell, born Eric Blair in the fading twilight of the British Empire, carries within his pen the weight of a century's accumulated horrors. His eyes have witnessed the trenches of imperial Burma, the squalor of London's forgotten poor, the betrayal of ideals in the Spanish Civil War. Each experience etches deeper lines of understanding into his weathered face. The year is 1948. Europe still smoulders from the ashes of fascism, yet new shadows lengthen across the continent. Stalin's iron grip tightens. The atomic age dawns with mushroom clouds that reshape the very meaning of human extinction. Orwell types with trembling fingers, tuberculosis gnawing at his lungs like a metaphor for the world's decay. In this moment of global reckoning, he births Winston Smith, a man whose very name echoes both triumph and ordinariness. Winston, like Churchill, suggests victory. Smith, like every Smith who ever lived, whispers anonymity. This contradiction pulses at the heart of human resistance, the heroic nestled within the mundane. Room 101 stands as literature's most terrifying doorway, not because of what lies beyond, but because of what it reveals about the geography of the human soul. Here, in this sterile chamber of personalized horror, we discover that every person carries their own key to their own destruction. The room knows us better than we know ourselves. The telescreen watches with unblinking mechanical eyes, a prophet of our current age where privacy withers like autumn leaves. Orwell's vision pierces through 1948 to glimpse 2024, where algorithms know our desires before we do, where our thoughts become data points in vast digital architectures. The screen that watches us now fits in our pocket. Julia moves through the novel like a force of nature disguised as rebellion. Her body becomes a battleground where love fights against ideology, where the personal transforms into the political. She understands what Winston must learn, that the most radical act in a totalitarian world is the simple human touch. Flesh remembers what the mind forgets. Big Brother's face looms from every corner, paternal and menacing, the perfect fusion of love and fear that defines the modern condition. This is not merely surveillance, it is the weaponization of human need for connection, the perversion of our deepest longing for belonging. We are watched, therefore we are. The ministry of truth rises like a concrete prayer to the gods of deception. Here, history bleeds and rewrites itself daily. Facts dissolve like sugar in acid, and the past becomes as malleable as warm clay in the hands of power. Reality bends until it breaks, then bends again. Doublethink, the ability to hold contradictory truths simultaneously, reveals itself as the essential skill of survival in the modern world. We love our chains, we celebrate our cage, we fight for our right to be controlled. The mind splits to survive, then forgets it was ever whole. The 2 minutes hate erupts like a volcanic ceremony of collective rage, channeling the mob's fury toward convenient targets. This ritual of orchestrated emotion exposes how quickly love can transform into hatred, how easily the crowd becomes a weapon. Faces contort with borrowed anger, hearts beat with programmed passion. Goldstein flickers across screens like a digital ghost, the eternal enemy whose existence depends entirely on the state's need for an object of hatred. He embodies the shadowy figure always lurking at the edges of authoritarian nightmares. The other, the threat, the reason for endless vigilance. The enemy we need is the enemy we create. The proles shuffle through their lives like sleepwalkers in a dream of normalcy, their very ignorance serving as a form of accidental freedom. They sing and love and quarrel beneath the radar of power, their humanity intact precisely because they matter so little. In their insignificance lies their salvation. Newspeak shrinks language like a dried fruit. each word lost representing a thought that can no longer be conceived. When the tools of expression disappear, the thoughts they once shaped fade like photographs left in sunlight. To control language is to control the very architecture of consciousness. The diary becomes Winston's first act of rebellion, not against the state, but against the erosion of his own identity. Each word scratched across paper serves as proof of his existence, evidence that he once thought thoughts that were entirely his own. The pen bleeds truth onto pages that hunger for authenticity. Memory serves as the novel's most precious currency, hoarded and spent and stolen with equal desperation. What we remember shapes who we are, but what happens when memory itself becomes unreliable, when the past shifts like sand beneath our feet? The mind becomes a battlefield where truth and falsehood wage eternal war. The paperweight holds within its glass dome a fragment of a world that no longer exists, coral from oceans that have been poisoned, beauty from times that have been erased. It sits heavy in Winston's palm like a prayer made solid. Sometimes the smallest things carry the weight of entire civilizations. Winston's mother haunts the narrative like a ghost of genuine human emotion, her memory preserved in the amber of a childhood that predates the revolution. She loved without calculation, sacrificed without reward, embodied the values that the new world has systematically destroyed. In her absence, we glimpse what humanity has lost. The chestnut tree spreads its branches over confessions extracted through torture, its shade falling across the broken spirits of those who dared to dream of freedom. Under its canopy, the defeated gather to nurse their wounds and contemplate their surrender. Even nature becomes complicit in the architecture of despair. O'Brien emerges from the shadows like a dark angel of enlightenment, his intellectualism masking a cruelty that transcends mere political necessity. He understands power not as a means to an end, but as an end in itself, the purest expression of human dominance. His knowledge makes him more dangerous than any torturer. The cage holds rats that gnaw at the edges of sanity, their teeth sharp enough to sever the last threads binding Winston to his humanity. In this moment of ultimate terror, we discover that courage has limits, that even the strongest spirit can be broken. Fear reveals the boundaries of the human heart. The Brotherhood exists as a shadow organization that may or may not be real, its very uncertainty reflecting the paranoid landscape of totalitarian existence. Hope and delusion intertwine until they become indistinguishable, each feeding the other in endless cycles. Sometimes the dream of resistance matters more than resistance itself. The thought police patrol the territories of consciousness with silent efficiency, their presence felt rather than seen. They understand that the most dangerous revolutions begin not with actions but with ideas, not with movements but with moments of private doubt. The mind becomes a prison where thoughts police themselves. Victory. Gin burns the throat like liquid despair, its harsh taste serving as a reminder that even pleasure must be rationed, even escape must be controlled. The state provides its own forms of numbness, its own paths to temporary oblivion. We drown our sorrows in substances that taste like defeat. The photograph, evidence of a truth that officially never existed, flickers into existence before vanishing down the memory hole. In its brief appearance, it illuminates the gap between what happened and what the state claims happened. Truth becomes a ghost that haunts the machinery of lies. Winston's final betrayal echoes through the chambers of human weakness, revealing how love can be weaponized, how our deepest connections can become the instruments of our destruction. In choosing Julia's pain over his own, he discovers the limits of heroism. The heart breaks not from hatred, but from the corruption of love. The Golden Country exists in Winston's dreams like a vision of paradise lost, its sunlit meadows and flowing streams offering refuge from the concrete reality of his waking life. Here, in this impossible landscape, freedom takes physical form. Sometimes the soul creates what the world refuses to provide. The antique shop serves as a museum of forbidden history, its dusty shelves holding remnants of a world that has been systematically erased. Each object tells a story that must not be remembered, preserves a memory that must not survive. The past becomes contraband in the hands of the present. Syme disappears like morning mist, his crime not rebellion, but intelligence, the dangerous ability to see too clearly, to understand too deeply, to know too much about the mechanisms of control. His fate whispers warnings to all who think too well. In a world of managed ignorance, knowledge becomes a capital offence. The rocket bombs fall like deadly rain, their random destruction serving to keep the population in a state of perpetual anxiety. War becomes background noise, a constant reminder of external threats that justify internal oppression. Fear from above keeps citizens from looking too closely at what lies below. Winston's varicose ulcer throbs like a barometer of his psychological state, its pain intensifying with each act of rebellion, each moment of doubt. The body keeps score of the soul's struggle, flesh recording what the mind attempts to forget. Physical pain becomes the price of psychological resistance. The children march through the streets like miniature soldiers, their innocence weaponized in service of the state. They report on parents, neighbors, anyone who deviates from prescribed behaviors, their youth making them perfect instruments of surveillance. The future betrays the past through the eyes of the present. The lottery provides the proles with dreams of escape while ensuring their continued captivity, its false promises serving as a release valve for social pressure. Hope becomes another form of control, another chain disguised as freedom. We buy tickets to dreams we're not meant to win. Winston's final encounter with Julia reveals the completeness of their transformation. Two people who once loved now meeting as strangers, their connections severed by the surgical precision of totalitarian methodology. Love dies not with violence but with indifference. The heart learns to forget what the mind cannot bear to remember. The Ministry of Love stands as a monument to the perversion of human emotion, its name a mockery of everything it destroys. Here, in rooms designed to break the spirit, we discover that the opposite of love is not hate, but systematic emotional annihilation. Love becomes a disease that must be cured through suffering. The chess game in the cafe represents the final movement of Winston's transformation, his mechanical play reflecting a mind that has learned to think only in approved patterns. Strategy becomes surrender, calculation becomes capitulation. The game ends when the player forgets they are playing. Winston's tears fall like rain on parched earth, but they water only the seeds of his final defeat. In loving Big Brother, he achieves the perfect synthesis of oppressor and oppressed, the ultimate victory of the system over the individual soul. The heart learns to love its own destruction. The novel's influence spreads like ripples through the decades, its warnings echoing in every surveillance camera, every data breach, every moment when convenience trumps privacy. Orwell's vision becomes prophecy, his nightmares becoming our daily reality. Fiction becomes fact when we stop paying attention to the difference. Today's algorithms know us better than we know ourselves, tracking our desires, predicting our behaviors, shaping our choices with invisible hands. The telescreen has evolved into something far more intimate, far more invasive, far more seductive. We carry our own Room 101 in our pockets. In the end, 1984 serves as both warning and mirror, reflecting our own capacity for surrender, our own willingness to trade freedom for security, truth for comfort. The novel's power lies not in its prediction of the future, but in its revelation of the human heart's deepest vulnerabilities. The question is not whether Big Brother is watching, but whether we still care.